Don't forget, tomorrow we're going to plan to dissect the heart. Okay. Okay. So in this, we now know our first line of defense. We've had we're having the second line of defense. Second line of defense, we've got inflammation, we've got the phagocytes. Another second line of defense that is not specific is fever. When you have something that's trying to invade your body and the body's trying to fight it off, one of the things that happens is we can develop a fever. So when we have a viral or bacterial infection, one of the things that's happening, that's going to stimulate lymphocytes to proliferate. What does that mean? Huh? To get a whole bunch of them, okay? So, here's what happens. Now, when we were talking about blood, okay, the iron, does everybody remember that? Okay, where did we find iron? In the center of that heme group, okay, the hemoglobin, okay? Guess what happens at the time of a fever? At the time of a fever, that higher body temperature is going to cause the liver and the spleen to sequester iron. What does it mean to sequester? To hold it. What does that do if we don't have that iron in the blood? It reduces the level of iron in the blood, and the body's going to react to it, which I think is kind of cool. So, what we're going to see is that when we have these invasions, okay, when we stimulate the lymphocytes to proliferate, they're going to, in this fever, the virus, the bacteria, we're going to produce cells that secrete a substance called an interleukin. Have you ever heard of interleukins? They get very interesting in the body. Now, when this substance, because we've been invaded, okay, and this substance gets released, that raises the body temperature. When we raise the body temperature, we inhibit microbial growth and increase the activity of the phagocytes. Bacteria, some of them like higher temperatures, but for the most part, the majority of them don't. So if we raise the body temperature, we're actually affecting that metabolism of that microbe. And the hopes is that we're going to kill it. So having this raised body temperature, it's not a bad thing, okay? We don't always have to treat a low-grade fever. So if you have that low-grade fever, I don't know, 99, all right? Like I said, if you get to be 100 or above, start worrying about it, okay? Otherwise, until it gets to that point, let your body do what it needs to be doing, all right? But that's just my opinion, okay? So now, first, second line of defense, okay? If there is something a pathogen that makes it past any of these defenses at this point, we now have to incorporate or call on or start up the third line of defense. What we normally think about as immunity. We now have to move into adaptive defenses. It's no longer innate. What does that term mean anyway? What does innate mean?
Natural.
Natural, just the way it's supposed to act. The innate defenses, one thing I kept mentioning, they act the same way every time, regardless of the pathogen that has been trying to break through. Now we need the adaptive, specific, okay? It's going to have to fight a specific pathogen. We get resistance to particular pathogens, or we get resistance to their toxins, or a metabolic byproduct. Whatever the body has to try to fight to get that pathogen taken care of, okay? We've now done something specific. We have incorporated this adaptive defense. Like I said, at this point, when we go to the third line of defense, the goal is making sure that the body recognizes a foreign substance, that it does not begin to attack its own cells. What is that called? Autoimmune. When your body affects its own cells, begins to attack them, this is an autoimmune disorder. So the goal in this specific system, make sure we attack what is foreign. So, antigens. Antigens are going to be the molecules that can elicit this immune response. This is a substance that's usually a protein of some sort. It will cause the formation of an antibody. So this antigen will cause the formation of an antibody. The reaction is very specific. And the goal, I know they've got the music playing out front. The goal is building up something against the foreign invader. So, these, or this, is a schematic representation of our defenses against pathogens. Something tries to gain entrance to the body in some way. Our first line of defense, skin, mucous membranes. If it makes it past the first line, we kick in the second line of defense. Now note, they're showing these as being equal. Why? Because if I've been exposed to that pathogen before and my body built up a memory cell, I don't have to do do that anymore. It goes immediately to that. Okay? So my second line of defense is going to kick in. If it makes it past the second line, I now have to move to my third line. Now, my third line of defense. I either get a cellular immune response or it's a humoral immune response. And I don't mean ha-ha funny. What's the humor? Speak up, I can't hear.
The bone in the leg? Humoral bone?
That's the femur.
Oh, sorry. Humoral.
Humor.
Oh,
That's the humorous.
yeah.
Still not ha-ha funny.
No. Humoral.
Humors. What does it mean if I talk about the humors of the body? This is a very old term, very old school term.
Is it liquid?
The fluids.
Fluids?
Yes. So I can either have a cellular immune response or a humoral immune response. The cellular immune response means the cells of our immune system. They're going to kill, basically, if we get those activated, okay, we're looking at the cells such as those T cells, macrophages, natural killer cells, cytokines. These are cells that are actually active in the immune system. If I talk about it being a humoral response, because it's the fluids of the body, this means that it's some type of component of the blood, all right, and we can look at it as being the plasma or the lymph, for example, okay, the lymph fluid. This one, under the humoral, that one is mediated by those antibodies. That one is mediated by those antibodies. And you're going to have the T cells and the B cells for the humoral response.
What was this? I'm confused. What was
Just keep the thought, because we're going to start talking about it tomorrow. Y'all had enough to digest for today, but the third line of defense we're going to get into as to how we begin to activate the T cells, the B cells, for example. Okay, we're going to talk about how we activate those.
I just had a quick question about the natural killer cells.
Mhm.
They help with cancer cells, right?
Right.
So